Hello, welcome back if you have been with me before, and welcome if this is your first visit to my channel. I am Beth, Spiral Path Healing Arts, and today we're doing a little project. I'm kind of playing today, which is either how the greatest messes are made or the greatest successes are made. From what my research has told me, I think this is one of those projects that I almost can't screw up. So let's see if that's true. So what I want to make today are some fabric beeswax wraps to use instead of cling wrap or saran wrap or plastic wrap or press and seal. And what I'm using to make them, Cass is under my table here trying to get at the cat food or something. I don't know. Anyhow, what I am using to make these are some bits of fabric. I did a little bit of fabric dyeing earlier this week, and I had some, I wouldn't call them fails. They just didn't turn out quite the colors or quite the patterns that I wanted. Like this is a pretty little mandala, but the colors just didn't quite do it for me. But I have some big bowls that this is about a 14 or 15 inch square. So this, if I cover it in wax, should be the perfect wax covering. And then these were that size, and again, just the colors weren't quite what I wanted. I already have a lot of fabric in these colors. I have to make a note of that the next time I dye so I don't end up making more. I was looking for bright springy colors, and I ended up with these kind of dull colors. So I cut these ones up into, but I think these are about 8-inch squares. And that one has a very pretty little spiral on it. It's just not quite what I wanted. So I'm going to see if I can make some wax wraps. And so how I'm doing that, it's not quite on camera, and it's hot wax. I'm a little afraid to move it. I have one of these. It's called a melting pot. I've had it for a number of years. Back in the early 2000s, I owned a little craft supply business store. And this was a product that I stocked, and I didn't sell all of them, so I still have one. And it's basically kind of a little crock pot melty thing. I think you can melt hot glue in it if you want to dip, like if you're making wreaths or paper, straw flower or dry flower arrangements. It's nice to melt a little bit of hot glue in there and use it to dip rather than to use the hot glue gun. Also, I've seen people melt the ultra thick embossing powders and do different things with them. Today, I am melting in here and mixing. I'm doing a 1-to-1 ratio of beeswax pellets and pine rosin. And you can harvest your own pine rosin. I happened to order this online because I was having a hard time finding any resinous trees around here that were producing at the time that I wanted enough. So I have in here 2 tablespoons of beeswax and 2 tablespoons of pine rosin. And then you saw me just like a cap full. And I have grapeseed oil. I've also seen jojoba oil, almond oil, suggested. Again, grapeseed just happens to be what I have, and so that's what I'm going to go with. And I have this set probably at about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Seems to me the beeswax melted right away at a lower temperature, but it seems to be taking just a little bit more heat to get the rosin to melt. And I'm mixing it up. There's so many ways to do this from my research that I'm just doing this because this is what I have. Okay, so I think it looks like pretty much everything is melted. I'm just going to start 1 or 2 of these. Now I have a nonstick cookie sheet, but I did go ahead and put some parchment paper on top of it. I could also probably get my cutting board out and just put sheets of paper on it as well, because I don't think I'm going to stick this in the oven. I don't think with the melting pot I'm going to need to. A lot of instructions say to, you know, sprinkle the stuff on it, put it in the oven to melt it, and then spread it out. But I think this method is not going to need me to do that. But let's see. Let's fart around and figure it out, as they say. Well, you know, actually, we usually don't say that. We say it a little differently around these parts, but family and all that. So, all right, I'm going to set my little spatula aside and let me adjust my camera so you can see what I'm doing here. So I have just two pieces of the 8x8 squares. I'm going to start with these to make it easy on this cookie sheet. And this is just an old, well, it's not old, it's just it's unused, cheap sponge brush. And let's see if this works. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to or not. It might not spread it enough. I'd rather not get my fingers all sticky. What I'm going to do is I am going to spread it on like this. I'm going to go turn on my oven to a really low temperature because I think that's what helps it, after it gets on the fabric, it helps it soak through to the other side and not pool, and then you can kind of spread it out a little more evenly. So now I know why that instruction is in there. So I will spread the wax on the other one here while I wait for my oven to heat up. It should not take but a minute to get to just a low, but I think I have it set for about 185 or so. That should be plenty. Now another option that I could do, and maybe I will experiment with another one, is once I get this on here, I could sandwich this between two sheets of parchment and a towel and a dry non-steam iron, and just iron it, and that'll help it also soak into and spread into the fabric. So I might try that too. It also looks like it's time for me to put a little bit more wax and rosin into my dye pot here. I'm going to just turn it down so it doesn't overheat empty. And I'm going to slide those off and get more. So the reason for using the resin or rosin is to make these a little stickier. Instructions I've seen in using just beeswax, pastils or beeswax, results in them being stiff but not being particularly sticky. So they don't cling to the sides of the dish bowls or to itself when you want to like make a food wrap. Alright, so here we have one of the first ones I did. It's nice and shiny. It's got a pretty good coating. I almost think it has too thick of a coating on it. But see, you can scrunch it up and it holds its shape. And open it back up. Let me grab something here. Just a coffee mug. And so say I had something in that mug that I wanted to protect, I could just whoop, and it's gonna stick on there and hold it. I think this is a win. I've got another batch in there melting right now. The last ones I pulled off, I used this silicone spatula to kind of scrape them after I brought them out of the oven to kind of smooth the stuff on them a little bit, and I might stick these first two back in the oven and do that after they melt up a little bit, because my fingers feel a little sticky. Second ones are still kind of cooling. Let me show you what I did there. So I just have this little pants hanger, and after I brought them out of the oven and kind of wiped off the extra wax, I've just hung them up here to finish off. So simple. I was going to drape them over my drying rack, but I didn't want my drying rack to get sticky because I put clothes on it. So, all right. So this batch kind of is fresh out of the oven. You can see it's really shiny, and I'm just going to kind of just take this and scrape it across, and it gets rid of any of the thick spots. The excess. Let's see if that makes a difference. I think it's going to. You got to do it right away when they first come out of the oven because they cool really fast and the wax and resin harden. But I have it still on the warm pan underneath it, so as I press it down, it does kind of. I think that's going to help. Ooh, I'm going to have to wash my mitts. Now I'm going to make another batch with a little less resin to beeswax ratio because these seem really sticky. And yes, I want them to be able to stick to things, but I also don't want them super sticky. Now this one seems just about right. This one doesn't seem like it really melted through to the other side, so maybe there's not even enough on that one. I might give this one a second coat. Let's see what I have left in here. And I'm gonna flip it over. Typically you don't have to do both sides because it typically melts through to the other side. Plenty. All right, while I mix up another batch, experimental batch, I'm going to stick this back in the warm oven and just let it melt in, see what happens. Okay, I think I have finally nailed down the process. So everything I've showed you so far, but at the end here, after they have cooled, like this one. It didn't quite melt through to the back side, but it's really thick and chunky on this side. Some of them, you know, there's really thick spots and really thin spots. So I have this ironing board pad, Teflon ironing board pad, and a piece of parchment paper that I am putting the finished wrap in. My iron is on like a medium setting. It's dry, no steam. And I'm just running this quickly over this. I can flip it both sides. Open it up. That smooths everything out very nicely. There's still a little chunk of resin on that one, but I'm not going to worry about it. Then I just take this and I take this, sorry, took it off camera, and I'm going to hang it on my little pants hanger here to cool. It doesn't drip. I don't have to worry about it getting on the floor or anything like that. It just evens everything out and really embeds the wax formula into the fabric. Now, if you don't have one of these ironing pads, a really thick wool blanket with an old towel on top, probably do the trick just fine. I am almost thinking, and I don't have a spare piece of fabric right here, I could almost, some of these are so thick that I could almost take a second waxed piece of fabric and sandwich it with the waxed piece of fabric and iron it and transfer enough wax from a finished one to an unfinished one and get two out of it. But that's my experiment in making waxed cotton food wraps, and I think it's going to work. It's also a great way to use up small pieces of fabric, quilt fabric, old sheets, in this case, things that I dyed that I didn't hate, but weren't exactly what I had turned out the way I wanted it to turn out for the project I was working on. So if you enjoyed this project, you learned a little something from this project, if you think you want to try this project, or you've already, maybe you're a master, maybe you already market and sell your beeswax wraps. I know there's a lot of people who sell them at farmers markets and craft fairs. I've seen them myself. And you have any, maybe you don't want to give away your industry secrets, but tips and tricks, like, Beth, what the heck are you doing? That is not the way you do this. I'm open. But please comment down below. Tell me what you think of this project, if you think you'll give it a try. If you think there's no way in God's green earth you're going to ever give this a try, but you would really like some of these, especially something funky and different like tie-dye ones, ice-dyed ones, comment down below. And I'm thinking at some point here, I don't know what subscriber count. I was thinking when I hit a certain subscriber count, I was going to do a little giveaway of some of the different projects. So if you think that's a great idea, share, comment, like, subscribe. All those things help my algorithms reach more people. And when they reach more people subscribe. And that brings me to the subscriber numbers that will enable me to have a giveaway. So we could do that. I think that would be fun. So I have a couple more of these to iron and cool, because I think that's definitely the way to do it. I like it better. I have one sitting in the oven right now. I turned the oven off, so it'll probably cool. But definitely the way to do it. I need a new piece of parchment. I'm going to go get a couple plain pieces of fabric that don't have anything on them and see if I can pick some of the wax up from either from this parchment that I've been ironing on and melt it in there or something. So if I have great success with any of those ideas, I'll put a little addendum on the end of this video, but otherwise then maybe there'll be another video in the future. So anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with me, and some new and exciting things potentially coming up in the near future. that I can't wait to share, but I got to keep a little bit of a secret for a little bit longer until I know for sure it's going to happen. So, but if it happens, some exciting things may be happening on this channel. So again, like and subscribe so you can, and follow the bell button so you can find out when I'm doing more stuff. Oh, in the braids, yeah, I turned 55 like a little over a week ago. And my sisters and I'm the youngest, so you can be 60 or almost 60 years old and still wear what we call Wednesday braids. Because if you're in your mid-50s to your early 60s, you remember the original Wednesday Addams and her braids. I guess Christina Ricci also wore the Wednesday braids. But it's Wednesday, so we have our Wednesday braids on. Mine are a little short. They're a little bit more pippy braids, but we're going to go with Happy Wednesday. Peace out, witches. We'll see you later. So a couple quick updates. I have all my beeswax wraps finished. And I do think ironing them between two pieces of parchment paper really helps to get the wax all the way through the fabric and smooth them out and even them out. And somewhere in here we go. I did do a couple where I just kind of, this was just plain fabric that I put in between with one that had a lot of wax and stuff on it and ironed it. And this feels like it will do the trick. It has enough on it. So there's a couple spots on this particular one that there's not a lot of wax, but maybe at some other point I can update it. Here's another one. So I mean, you warm it up and it does the trick. So I'm really looking forward to that. Here's my Mulder mug. If I take, well, that one's big. Hold on, let me get a smaller one here. If I take my Mulder mug, put that on there, scrunch it down, it's not going anywhere. No. I'll take a little more time to warm it up and get it scrunched down, but I think it's definitely gonna work. I like it. Another helpful tip. I have these two spatulas that have a lot of stuff stuck to them. So I popped them in the freezer when I was done. And now I just have to sit here. The wax and resin on them is frozen and it just comes off in big chunks. And I could actually stick it in a baggie or a jar to save for the next time I want to make some of these. So yep, there it goes. It's just flaking right off. So that's a tip. Anytime you do anything that's sticky or waxy and you have utensils that are covered, pop them in the freezer and it'll come right off when you, this is not, well, come right off might be a little bit of an overstatement, but it's coming off pretty easy. I'm not doing a very good job of doing it. So there you go. But before we go today, I wanted to share a couple other things with you. But yesterday, when I was out and about doing my things, I happened to stop into a couple thrift stores and a little antique kind of vendor space. And I missed out on one item, which made me mad because I was there first. I saw it first, but it hadn't been priced. And I asked about it. And they said, oh, hasn't gotten to the guy who's doing the pricing hasn't gotten to it yet. And we can't put it on hold. And you can't buy it until until it's been priced. And I said, all right, well, I have another appointment to go to, another dog walk. I can be back here in a half hour, 45 minutes probably. Oh, well, she won't get to it then. I'm like, okay. So it was a beautiful chair. It was a leather chair. It looked brand new, showroom new. Little swivel chair. I've been wanting a swivel chair for so long. And because especially, swivel chairs just make small spaces much more convenient. Anyway, And it was a recliner, but it wasn't like a huge recliner. It was a small footprint swivel recliner, gray leather, perfect. So I left. I did my walk, and then I'm like, well, she said it, wouldn't be ready yet. So I went to another place and bummed around in there for a little bit, looked at stuff, and then made my way back down the street to this one. I walked in, had a sold sign on it, and I was so mad. I mean, I wasn't like throw a hissy fit Karen kind of mad, but I was disappointed, to say the least, because I saw it first. Same resale shop thrift store that I had missed out on another chair a couple months ago. But needless to say, I still found some things. So first of all, well, I gotta uncover this so you can see what it is and hold it up. I found this little doohickey on the shelf. I think it's for baby bottles, like after you wash them to put them on here to dry. I think that's what it is, a baby bottle drying rack, or, water bottle drying rack, that kind of thing. For like my water bottles sitting there. But what I needed it for is I have these reusable silicone Ziploc bags that I have quite a few of, and I use quite a few of. And I also, if it hasn't had raw meat in it or anything nasty or still in pretty good shape, I will wash out a regular Ziploc as well. So I have a Ziploc storage bag drying rack. Very happy with that purchase. Because before I would just prop them over whatever random thing was on my counter until they dried. And yeah, so now I have that. The other thing is walking down the aisle, and I saw this beautiful apple green pitcher. I love the color. I have a small collection of ceramic and glass pitchers. Again, they're all in storage until I move out of this little house. Although I did think of putting a shelf above this window and putting up there, because I also have a small collection of ceramic teapots as well. So I thought, oh, this would go really nicely with my collection. It looks like a nice quality. I picked it up. I flipped it over. I went, oh yeah, this is mine. Had a $10 price tag on it. And it's a Le Creuset 1042 are the numbers on the bottom. I'm sure you can't see that. Came home, I looked it up. I've seen it anywhere, similar ones on Amazon. Some of them have like an ombre color. This one does not. This one is solid, the same solid apple green. But, somewhere around the $35, $40 range. Some similar ones are like $85, $90, but they're different colors. So this one, I don't know if it just wasn't a popular color, but it looks brand new. So, very excited about that. So those were my little hauls. I didn't get my cute chair, my comfy chair, but you win some, you lose some. Someday I'm going to win some at that place. I'm going to get me a new chair, because the chair I have right now is not a great chair. It's doing the job, but I need to replace it. So, anyway, just thought I'd share my little thrifting wins with you. Have a great one. Peace out. All right, that's enough.